One of them. Farquaad was not just removing fairy tale creatures because it made Duloc cleaner. That is the easy version of the story. The weirder part is how personal it feels. Look at the gingerbread man scene again. He is not treating these characters like normal citizens who broke a rule. He talks to them like they are something he wants erased from the world completely. And once you know what the official stage version added later, that scene reads very differently. In the musical version, the fairy tale creatures reveal that Farquaad's own father is a grumpy dwarf. So the guy trying to get rid of every strange, magical, messy creature in Duloc is not actually as separate from them as he wants everyone to believe. That is what makes the theory work. Fans were not just saying, hey, Farquaad is short, so maybe there is a joke there. The point is deeper than that. His whole kingdom is built around pretending he is normal, perfect, royal, and above everyone else. But the later version of the story makes it clear that he comes from the exact fairy tale world he is trying to throw away. So when Farquaad points at the creatures and calls them the problem, he is really pointing at the part of himself he cannot stand. Duloc was not just a kingdom, it was his cover story. Left alone. Shrek always acts like he wants everyone gone. That is the joke at first. He has warning signs outside his swamp, he scares villagers for fun, and the second anyone steps on his land, he gets angry. But the stage version gives that behavior a much sadder reason. In the musical story, Shrek is only 7 when his parents send him out into the world on his own. They basically tell him people will hate him because of how he looks, and then he has to figure life out alone. That does not make the movie darker in a cheap way. It makes his walls make sense because in the film, Shrek does not just dislike people. He expects rejection before it even happens. When Donkey tries to stay with him, Shrek pushes him away. When Fiona starts getting close, he hears one painful conversation and immediately assumes the worst. He is not reacting like someone who simply enjoys privacy. He is reacting like someone who learned early that getting close to people ends badly. That is why the swamp matters so much to him. It is not only his house, it is the one place where nobody can send him away again. So when Farquaad dumps the fairy tale creatures there, Shrek is not just annoyed because his home is crowded. The only safe place he ever built is being taken from him too. She was left too. Fiona being locked in a tower is obvious. Everyone remembers that part. But the theory is not that Fiona was trapped. The theory is that Fiona and Shrek were written as 2 versions of the same wound. The stage version makes that parallel much clearer. We see Shrek sent away as a child, and we see young Fiona waiting in the tower for years, growing up with a storybook idea of rescue. One of them is told the world will hate him. The other is told someone perfect will come, save her. Different stories, same result. Both end up alone. That is why their connection in the movie works so fast. It is not just because they both burp, fight, and make gross jokes. Those scenes are funny, but they are also the first time either of them gets to be ugly, weird, loud, and still accepted. Fiona does not have to perform perfect princess. Shrek does not have to perform scary monster, and that makes the campfire scene hit harder. When Fiona talks about being ugly by night, Shrek thinks she is talking about him. Both of them are afraid of being seen clearly because both of them were hidden away before they had a choice. So the later musical detail does not replace the movie. It helps explain why these 2 characters feel like they recognize each other before they fully understand why. City exposed him. Duloc looks funny because it is too perfect. The little song, the clean streets, the tiny rules, the fake happiness. At first it feels like a parody of a theme park, but the production notes make the design much more direct. Duloc was built to reflect Farquaad. That matters because every major place in Shrek tells you something about the person connected to it. Shrek's swamp is messy, earthy, wet, and alive. Farquaad's city is flat, hard, straight, and controlled. Even the flowers feel like they have been ordered to behave. So the theory is not just Duloc is creepy. The theory is that Duloc is Farquaad's insecurity turned into architecture. Everything is symmetrical because he wants control. Everything is clean because he cannot stand anything that looks natural, strange, or unpredictable. Everyone smiles because nobody is allowed to show anything real. That makes his first big introduction even better on rewatch. Before Farquaad explains his plan, Duloc has already shown us his problem. He wants a kingdom where nothing reminds him of weakness, mess, magic, or difference. And that is exactly why the fairy tale creatures do not fit there. The city is basically telling on him before he does. Farquaad thinks Duloc proves he is powerful, but really it proves how scared he is of anything he cannot control. It was personal. This is where Farquaad's whole plan gets uglier. If he only wanted power, he could ignore the fairy tale creatures. He could tax them, use them, or push them outside the castle walls. But he does not just want them controlled, he wants them removed. The official character material for the stage version gives that hatred a personal root. Farquaad's bias against fairy tale creatures comes from resentment toward his father. And once you know his father is tied to that same fairy tale world, the purge stops feeling random. Look at how he talks about Duloc. It is not just a kingdom to him. It is was proof that he escaped something. He made a place where everything looks polished and royal, then filled it with rules that keep weirdness out. But the more he tries to hide where he comes from, the louder it becomes. That is why the wedding reveal works as a payoff to the whole idea. The creatures do not defeat him only by interrupting a ceremony. They expose the thing he has been trying to bury. Farquaad wanted to decide who counted as acceptable. Then the story turns around and shows that his own background would fail his test. So, the confirmed idea is not just that Farquaad is a hypocrite, it is that his cruelty was built from shame, and he turned that shame into policy. Swamp protected him. The swamp is usually played as a joke. Mud, bugs, slime, gross food. A door that looks like it should not stand up. But the production design makes it clear that Shrek's world is not random. His environment is tied to earthiness, while Farquaad's world is tied to control. That contrast is the key. Shrek's swamp is ugly to everyone else, but it is alive. Nothing there has to be straight, clean, royal, or impressive. It is the opposite of Duloc, and that is why it fits Shrek so well. Fans could always read the swamp as armor. Shrek is not just hiding in a place nobody wants. He is choosing a place where no one else's rules matter. In Duloc, everything is judged by how it looks. In the swamp, nothing has to look good to be useful. That is basically Shrek's whole emotional problem in one location. So when he says he wants his swamp back, it is not a small property dispute. It is his safety coming under attack. The fairy tale creatures are not wrong for needing help, but their arrival forces Shrek into the one thing he has avoided for years: contact. The funny part is that the swamp protects him. The important part is that it also keeps him alone. That is why losing it starts the whole change. Stuck too. Dragon is easy to remember as the monster in the tower. She chases Shrek, corners Donkey, breathes fire, and guards Fiona like the final obstacle in a video game. But the stage character description gives her a better frame. She is not just the trap, she is trapped too. In the official stage material, Dragon is described as the one charged with guarding Fiona, but also as tired of being a glorified babysitter. That one detail changes how her first scene feels. She is not just sitting there because she loves being scary. She has been stuck in that castle doing the same job for years, just like Fiona has been stuck waiting upstairs. That makes Donkey's scene with her less random too. He is terrified, obviously, but he also becomes the first character who talks to her like she is not only a monster. He compliments her, listens, and accidentally gives her something the tower never gave her: attention. So the theory is not that Dragon was secretly innocent the whole time. It is simpler and stronger. She was another character forced into a role. Fiona had to be the princess. Shrek had to be the monster. Dragon had to be the danger at the door. And by the end, she does not just help the heroes. She escapes the role the story handed her. Not gone. Farquaad gets one of the most memorable endings in the whole movie. Dragon crashes into the wedding, eats him, and Duloc loses its perfect little ruler in front of everyone. For the first Shrek movie, that is the end of his power, but it is not the last time the franchise uses him. In Shrek 4D, also known as the Ghost of Lord Farquaad, the story continues after the first film and brings him back as a ghost trying to get revenge. That does not mean he survived the wedding. It means DreamWorks still treated him as part of the official story world after his death. That is the safer and more interesting theory. Farquaad was gone from the main movie, but not gone from the franchise. His obsession with Fiona, control, and revenge was strong enough to carry into a later Shrek attraction. Even after losing Duloc, he still tries to force the fairy tale ending he wanted, and that fits him perfectly. Farquaad was never really chasing love. He was chasing legitimacy. Fiona was a shortcut to becoming king. Duloc was his proof that he mattered. So even as a ghost, the goal stays the same. He wants the story to obey him, which makes his return funny, but also very Farquaad. Even death could not make him stop managing the ending.